with the microphone.
So I'm here this evening to share with you some highlights from this past year at preschool. I don't know if we need to dim the lights or.
It might help.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so Ms. Loga or Ms. Wallace, will you make sure that the video is sent to us so they can see it on their own computers? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I want to see some quotes by Terry Wallace up there too.
Okay, now we'll go to the roll call.
Laura Blakely.
Ellen Mueller,
Devin Conley,
Jose Gutierrez Jr.
And Tamara Wilson, let the record reflect that all 5 trustees are present. And can I get an approval of the agenda?
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and a motion made by trustee Wheeler and seconded by trustee Blakely. The motion and approval of the agenda passes unanimously. Move on now to the opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning items on the closed session agenda. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address us? Okay, seeing as there are none, at 5:09, we will adjourn to closed session. I'd like to reconvene the meeting. Phone doesn't. There it is. All right, at 6:13, we'll reconvene the meeting of the Mountain View Wisconsin School District Board of Trustees. I'd like to report out that no action was taken during closed session, but we do have a revised personnel report available at the back of the room for anybody who's interested. And we'll move on to item 6, employee recognition.
Good evening, trustees, Mountain View community. It's that time of year that we get to recognize our district retirees. Before you, you have a resolution of recognition, and staff is recommending that you approve and adopt resolution 03053019 in recognition of our retiring employees as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on a motion moved by trustee Wheeler and seconded by trustee Conley, the resolution passes unanimously. Congratulations, retiring employees. Thank you for your service.
So I have the pleasure of introducing each of our retirees this evening, and I have my helpers who are going to help me. Ms. Bauer is going to assist me. The first one is Ms. Susan Abbott. So retirees, if I call your name, if you would come this way and see Kathy, and then come up this way, and then board, if you want to step out in front, and you get to shake the board's hand.
You know what? I'm going to take one quick minute because this resolution is important. We've always said this. It's a short one, so I'd like to just read it quickly.
I was wondering.
Whereas the 10 retired employees have contributed to the education of students of Mountain View Wisconsin School District, and whereas they have played a vital role. Is anyone else here with me?
Yes.
In the district's learning programs, guiding young people in citizenship and responsibility for themselves and the greater community, contributed to establishment and promotion of a positive instructional environment, played a vital role in providing for the welfare and safety of Mountain View Wisconsin School District students, and
Whereas they have unselfishly given their time, energy, and creativity to young people in Mountain View Wisconsin School District.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Mountain View Wisconsin School District does hereby recognize and honor the employees at their retirement.
Passed and adopted by the Mountain View Wisconsin School District Board of Trustees this 30th day of May 2019.
And I'm going to go by alphabetical order in true education style. Our first retiree is not here this evening, but it's Susan Abbott, and she began her career as a substitute with the Mountain View Wisconsin School District in 1994. She was hired as a classroom teacher in 1997 and has spent the duration of her career at Crittenden Middle School as a special day special ed teacher. So round of applause for Ms. Abbott. Ms. Carol Bronstein. Carol began her career with the Mountain View Wisconsin School District as a substitute teacher and a CELT tester. She joined the teaching staff at Huff in 2005 as a first grade teacher. Her first grade team has appreciated her immensely, her friendly face, her positive spirit during her tenure at Huff. Congratulations, Carol. Next, we have Ms. Patty Burris. Patty? Patty joined the Wisman School District in 1999 at Wisman School, moving to Montaloma in 2000. Patty consistently and cheerfully collaborated with colleagues to the benefits of students. She held high standards for her students and never stopped thinking about creative strategies to engage them. She was the force behind Montaloma's Science Fair and Science Information Nights for parents. She fostered new teachers. Her teammates describe her as a mentor you could count on for support. Montaloma will truly miss Patty. Next, we have Mr. Ramon Farias. Mr. Farias, are you here? Ramon dedicated the last 26 years to Bub School as a school custodian. His diligent work and positive attitude has contributed to the smooth and efficient operation of the campus. The staff has expressed they are very glad that he's been part of the team all these years, and with his patience and kindness towards students, he will most definitely be missed. We hope you enjoy the rewards of your hard work, and congratulations on retiring. Our next retiree is not here. She retired a little earlier this year. She's in Modesto, Miss Christine Funk. She joined the district in 2012 and became an important part of our transportation team. For the last 7 years, she dedicated her days to the safety of Mountain View students. As one of the children on her bus route would always say, "We love you, we miss you, and we hope you have a forever vacation." Best of luck to you in your new stage of life. That's Miss Christine Funk. Next, we have Miss Melanie Hibbs. Melanie Hibbs joined the Mountain View Wisdom School District as a speech therapist in January 1993 at Graham Middle School. She continued at Graham until 2015 when she joined Crittenden. Throughout her tenure, Ms. Hibbs shared her wisdom with colleagues, broadening perspectives for students and staff while keeping the students' best interests at heart. Colleagues describe Ms. Hibbs as a great listener, an exceptional advice giver, and an awesome party giver. Congratulations. Next, we have Miss Terry Highgate. Terry joined Mountain View in August in 2005 as a PAC program teacher at Slater. She moved with the PAC program to Castro and finally to Stevenson. New teachers describe Terry as a gold mine of knowledge with a calming nature that helped them navigate the ups and downs of teaching during their first year. Ms. Highgate's passion for parent participation and hands-on learning is an exemplar to her staff. Thank you for your service, Terry, to Stevenson Elementary students and family. And our next retiree is not joining us this evening. It's Mr. Michael Call. Mr. Call joined the Mountain View Wisman School District in 2001 at the middle school and returned in 2004 as a fourth grade teacher at Huff Elementary. Mr. Call has also worked at at Bub and Therakoff schools during his time with Mountain View. We wish him well in his new chapter. Miss Cindy Murphy. Cindy was hired with the Wisman School District as a fifth grade teacher at Therakoff in August 2000. She's a generous person and has been known to share her lunch with her colleagues as well as her subject matter expertise. She greets staffs and students with a smile, encouraging individual talents and strength. Congratulations, Cindy. And finally, we have Miss Merlene Saunders. Merlene joined the Mount View Wisman School District on September 3rd, 1986 as a PE teacher at Graham Middle School. Ms. Saunders has worked at Graham for her entire tenure with Mountain View Wisman. Her staff, her parents, and community thank her for her many years of service. Ladies and gentlemen, please once again congratulate Lucky Dogs retirees for the Mount View Wisman School District. And now, this time, we'd like to acknowledge our years of service for our employees. So if you hear your name, if you would walk this way and say hello to everyone at Cabinet and then come up and shake the board's hand. We're starting with 10 years of service. Rachel Fetro. Gloria Higgins. Arlene Miata. Irene Morrison. Sid Rivera. Congratulations. Kirsten Solorzano. Congratulations. Melanie Stanley. And Miss Moira Turner. Congratulations to our 10 years. Now our 15 years of service. Mr. Ronan Bhattacharya. Irene Cuevas. Ann Jennings. Doreen Kolb. Leela Karzian Banos. Sarah Kearns Vella. Steve Kiesecker. Gail Lee. Dorian Martinka. Sherry Miner. Paula Pasquini. Cristobal Pichardo. Elizabeth Reeves. Francis Rodriguez. Felix Ruiz. And Leanne Rapello. Hey, congratulations to our 15-year employees. Now 20 years. Carol Anzia. Carol Bronstein. Patty Burris. Anna Gomez. Melanie Gray. Jose Lopez. Leslie McClellan. Colleen McCullough. Alicia McNally. Elizabeth Mesa. Liz Mogan. And Rita Villanueva. Congratulations to our 20-year employees. And now 25 years. Susan Abbott. Carol Sawyer. Sophia Zala. Our 30-year employee is Joan Chaskin. Joan? And finally, with 35 years of experience and years of service in our district, Ms. Jenny Spence. Please join me in another round of applause for all of our employees and their years of service. So now it is my pleasure to announce the Classified Employee of the Year. And I would like her to come stand front and center with me, Miss Maria Coco Ayala. Maria Coco Ayala joined the Mountain View Wisman School District in 2009, and during her time here, she has contributed as an instructional assistant, clerical assistant, and now as the school secretary at Stevenson Elementary. Coco is the friendly face you see every morning as she greets each student by name. It is those personal connections she builds such great community at Stevenson. Coco believes in those around her. She works hard to support students to make them feel important and capable, as well as helping new teachers navigate the school and community. She genuinely wants to see everyone succeed, and the entire Stevenson staff sees Coco go above and beyond her job description every single day. And you know how much they truly appreciate you by them being in the back here. Ladies and gentlemen, our 2019 Classified Employee of the Year.
Thank you all, and you know this is why I've lasted almost 10 years in my district. Without that appreciation, no, I would not come back for this every day. But believe there's many people like me working in this district. I am definitely and absolutely not the only one that serves our community faithfully and with much dedication. So I thank you, and I'll keep it short and sweet, like Trustee Gutierrez said. But I'm going to read very quickly because I need to acknowledge a lot of people that helped me get to where I am today. So besides the hats that I wore that Ms. Geisels mentioned, I've worn quite a few more. You just don't know about it. And it's all thanks to the trust that many of the staff people at district entrusted me with and had faith. So I wanted to give a heartfelt thank you to all of you for your support in what was a very gratifying moment upon learning I was selected the Classified Employee of the Year. It was a huge wow, that left me momentarily speechless. Those of you who know me know that I am anything but speechless. During my almost 10-year tenure at this district and being part of it, most of this time I've spent with Stevenson and its community, and it's because of this community that I keep coming back. As I expressed on Wednesday, I could not ask for a better team of coworkers and leadership that have pushed me towards becoming a better person, both professionally and personally. Every day I continue to learn from you all. Every day is an adventure. Every day we create new memories as we all collaborate to take care of our students and families. I'm a proud Stingray and a proud Mountain View Wisman School District employee, and I extend to you all my most heartfelt and sincere gratitude for the wonderful days and the many more that are to come. Special, and I mean special, appreciation to the people who trusted and had faith in my capacity from the very beginning, starting with, some of you may remember her, friend and former district employee Lucia Molina, who was at Castro, and she SOS'd me when I was freelancing, consulting for interpreting and translating in the education field, when she called me to do parent-teacher conferences because they were short. Immediately, Judy Crates comes into play, and she insisted, and those of you that know Judy, she ordered me to district office to apply for employment here. So she claims to have discovered me for the use of you all. Yeah, and you know, as you all know, she does not take no for an answer because, well, I heeded, because I know what's good for me, and I did as I was told. When Judy tells you to do something, you do it. And Jane Fonda for calling me to cover Montaloma while Francis Rodriguez was away. I'm sure this was horrible for Kathy Bauer, having a stranger run her very efficient office. And she tried to hide it really well, but Angela Lyons was there. And so Angela Lyons took me under her wing and helped me run her school for about a month and a half, right, Kathy? Remember that? That was traumatic. And so she called me to work at Mauna Loma, and she pretty much opened the door for everything. Also for Steve Gingras, rest in peace, for hiring me and trusting me to work with the SPED department at Castro and Slater, knowing each other from many IEP meeting and translating and interpreting. And by the way, those are the 2 best years I had at Slater, learning all about special needs. Made me a better mama, made me a better human. To Phyllis Rogers, if you notice, a lot of these people are no longer here. Phyllis is retired, but Phyllis trusted me to run one of the school's CELT programs. So I did testing for the English language learners, and also Maria Lopez, who is the current secretary over at Graham, for taking me under her wing and teaching me all about CELT and language acquisition and all that good stuff that I, as an English learner, knew nothing about, but I did it. Angela Lyons for hiring me at Stevenson. She's the one that brought me to Stevenson, having worked with me at Montaloma. So that was really great. Angela has also moved on to other experiences, and couldn't not say anything, couldn't do this without Josette and Lanita Villaseñor. That's a mother and daughter. Also for their mentorship. If you knew Lanita, let me tell you, she did not play, nor did her mother. So I learned well. My second boss at Stevens, who is Tyler Graff, has also moved on to another district for making me, and I mean making me, be his secretary. But I wasn't given a choice, so I stepped into Lanita's very large shoes, and he pulled me out of my comfort zone, and I guess he knew what he was doing because I've lasted this long. So, I had to listen to him even though he was old enough to be my son. If you know him, tell him I said that because he hated it. And I have to stress that because he left us and he shouldn't have. And I always remind him of that, always. Last but most importantly, to my current boss, Rebecca Westover. For the past 4 years, she has placed her trust and has allowed me to help her care for our school community and for fanning my wings, both professional and personal. A huge thank you to you. And finally, to all the wonderful people I've had the privilege of working with across the district, from MOT to IAs to all the DO staff, tech team. You all know who you are. We are all very important pieces of the Mountain View Wisman School District puzzle. Without you, your hard work and support, I would not be able to efficiently do my job. Not even close. And for you, I am grateful every day to my Stevenson family, my home away from home, the extended Mountain View Wisman School District team, my friends and colleagues. I expect to keep returning as long as y'all will have me. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Ms. Coco. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce our 2018 Teacher of the Year, Ms. Kathy Patterson. Ms. Patterson is going to do a dubious honor for me and introduce the 2019 Teacher of the Year for the Mountain View Wisman School District.
I'm delighted and honored to be able to stand up here and speak to all of you about one of the outstanding teachers in our district, Lauren Ball. It's a pleasure to be able to say a few words about a teacher who goes to exceptional efforts day in and day out to help her children reach their fullest potential. Lauren began her career as a special day class mild to moderate teacher from 2008 to 2012 at La Costa Meadows Elementary in Carlsbad, California. In August 2012, she transitioned to San Marcos, California, where she was SDC Learning Center teacher at Alvin Dunn Elementary. In 2004, Lauren moved to the San Francisco Bay Area teaching in San Jose as a special day class teacher at the elementary and middle school level. In 2017, Lauren joined Mountain View Wisman School District as our orthopedically impaired teacher at Therkoff Elementary. She spends countless hours juggling and managing a team of support for her children, making sure everyone is well prepared and able to bring her very best for her students. She's worked diligently to create a sense of community and belonging for her students and families, showing respect for each child and their abilities. Her efforts have raised awareness and compassion at Therkoff. She volunteered to champion abilities awareness at Therkoff, sensing that this is important to teach staff, fellow teachers, parents, and students that everyone learns in different ways and not all things come easily. Lauren is passionate about supporting individuals with disabilities through the lifespan. She takes the content material and creates individual lessons designed for each of her students. Lauren has no fear of learning teaching strategies or incorporating new technologies into lessons, and always is willing to share what she's learned with colleagues. She's constantly investigating cognitive solutions that support her students' learning and holds high expectations for them, which they strive to achieve. Lauren shows that her classroom is made up of our most precious, fragile students, each with their own unique personality. Lauren goes out of her way to create a sense of community and belonging for her students and their families. Her love and care for her children is evident as she greets each one of them with grace and a smile. She has the utmost respect of those who work around her and are inspired by her. They feel privileged to be able to work with her. A colleague shared this about her. One day when I was having a very difficult time getting a student to go back into class, she came up to me and asked if I needed assistance and if I was okay. I didn't know her, she didn't know me, but she noticed me. Her kindness got me through the day and the confidence I needed to do my job. A great teacher sees a challenge and is inspired by it. Board of Trustees, Mountain View community, it's my honor to present the 2018-19 Teacher of the Year, Ms. Lauren Ball.
I just have a few things to say. I'm a little nervous. Thank you so much. I'm tall. Okay. Thank you so much for this recognition. I haven't worked for the district very long, so this comes as a complete surprise. And I've been teaching special education for almost 12 years, and I have not heard of a special educator winning Teacher of the Year anywhere. So I couldn't be more honored as a teacher and a special educator. I'm very thankful for the district for the opportunity to teach this program and to have this program. I work with students that have unique medical and learning needs, and they're often bused to county programs and on the bus for hours far from their home, or they don't go to school at all. They're in-home programs. So the fact that these kids can come to school and it's a publicly integrated facility where they have typical friends is amazing. It's great for the families. My program runs on a very unique collaboration every day. I have 3 full-time nurses and 3 assistants. Alongside me, I have several direct service people such as physical therapists, vision therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, and several more people. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them there to assist me. I have learned more in the last 2 years from these individuals than I have in my whole career. I'm also very proud to be a part of the Therkoff staff. The school welcomed me with the most welcome and vigor I've known. They've been so wonderful to me and my staff and the students. Wonderful things happen at Thayer Koff. I'm one of many hardworking and caring teachers there. They successfully modeled inclusion and kindness to my students in front of their children. And my students have amazing friendships at the school. Thankful for my family and especially my 9 students who've taught me more about strength, resilience, and intelligence than I ever thought I would know. Once here tonight, I adore them and admire them more than people could wrap their head around. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, for tonight. Thank you for your years of service. Retirees, enjoy your next chapter. And to Coco and to Lauren, congratulations. You are a shining example of what we do in Mountain View. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. The political one? Yeah, I haven't seen the movie. I saw the preview.
In one of the themes of this movie, she's so classy and so sharp.
Yeah.
But in one of the first scenes that you see her, she's wearing this all red dress and it's long. And it's just this kind of, just a little bit of something, up there. And that's
I
what
don't
this
have
dress
something to
looks
hide,
like.
but
No, but I mean, this kind of something
Yeah.
that goes down a little bit and it just looks great. So when you see this,
yeah, I've never.
Anyway, so see the movie.
Yes, it looks really cute.
Not recently, no. And what is true
Oh, here we go.
is that it's almost yeah.
Bathroom free now. You know. Down jacket. Off to the denim jacket. To our right. Bills.
Okay, I'm making the connection.
Sorry, I'm trying to be. I'm being a little too oblique.
All right, at 6:54, we will reconvene the meeting of the Mountain View Wisman School District Board of Trustees. And we are now at the consent agenda. Apparently somebody would like to pull some items.
Yes, so I would like to pull items E and F.
Okay, items E and F. So can I get an approval of the consent agenda?
So moved, minus E and F.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, we're just gonna take them out?
We're
So
gonna
when
talk
we,
about them at the
yes.
end. Yes.
Okay, so then the motion is to
Approve.
remove E and F, but then add them on to the action item agenda? Is that it?
yeah, so I was, Board President Wilson and I were talking about this ahead of time. This is an agenda where there are no actions items other than the consent agenda. So these items would be pulled and then voted on separately during the consent agenda, which is an action item. So we have approved the consent agenda. So now we would do these two action items now.
Thank you. Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on a motion made by trustee Wheeler and seconded by trustee Blakely, the consent agenda passes with items E and F removed now to action. So we will touch on items E, resolution number 01053019, support for Charter School Reform Act legislation.
Thank you. So I'm going to make three separate comments, and I would like to make them all in a row, and then, whatever comments other people want to make. So the first comment is that it's best practices to, when you have a resolution or letters that are requested of the board, to have those be separate action items, not be on consent. So that's a reason why I pulled those items off. Second is regarding the charter school legislation. I was at a May revised budget workshop, budget update workshop today, and got, like up to the minute information about these bills. And what we were informed is that as of about 11 a.m. today, item the 1506 is dead. So it is not going to be carried forward to the Senate this year. Item 1505 passed the Assembly with a lot of contention, and what we were informed today is that the expectation is that if anything happens with that bill going forward in the Senate and with reconciliation, it will be a much different bill than it is today.
Trustee Wheeler, can you please elaborate a little bit on what 1505 and 1506?
Yeah, so 1506 is dead. That's the one that limits the number of charter schools in the state. 1505 has a lot of components to it. And like I say, the information we received today is that it's going to be a much different bill going forward than it was as it squeaked by in the Assembly. But 1505 is the one. It would authorize county boards of education to deny a petition for a new charter school if it makes a written factual finding that the charter school would have a negative financial, academic, or facilities impact on neighborhood public schools. So that one, they expect that one to be revised extensively. 1507 is the one with no contention to it, and 1507 is the one that disallows districts from outside of a charter school to approve a charter school in, their district. So that one is non-controversial and they expect that one to pass. So that's the second thing I wanted to say. The third thing I want to say is I follow these issues extensively. I was going to say the latest, but it's not the latest because today I heard the latest. But the second to the latest information I learned and heard about these charter school bills was the EdSource podcast that was posted online on Saturday. And in particular, and this is kind of a lead up to my own opinion, in particular, there is a task force, a governor's task force that was created by Governor Newsom, led by the state superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurmond, to examine the world of charter schools and to come up with recommendations. They're going to come up with recommendations, it's like at the end of June, the beginning of July. So their recommendations would be considered during the part of the legislative session that is after the approval of the budget in June. So in August and September, there is additional cleanup language that happens in the legislature. A lot of legislators, in particular one who I highly respect, her name is Shirley Weber. She's an assembly member from the San Diego area. She's a former school board member, and she voted no on these measures, saying that we should wait, so long as the governor and the state superintendent are having this task force do their work, they're meeting weekly, that we should wait for that task force's recommendation and not move forward with bills at this point in time. And a lot of state legislators agree with Assemblymember Weber on this, that it is too early to take positions on bills, that we should wait for the task force. So I don't know what the rest of you are going to do, but I'm going to vote no on this because I agree that we should wait for the task force recommendations.
Thank you, Trustee Wheeler, for your comments. I would just like to point out that the resolution doesn't indicate anything in regards to any bill numbers. It really states that it's an effort to indicate that the Mountain View Wisdom School District is in support of local control of the approval process. It doesn't reference any bills in general. So I'll say that first off in response. And secondly, in terms of resolutions appearing on consent, my intent was in the future, we often see resolutions coming through with minor textual changes from CSBA that don't really change the meaning or the content of a lot of the resolutions. They come by every year. We see these. My intention is to keep those on to consent. So I think that guidance might have guided why you're seeing this here now, although this is materially different and brand new. I understand. But there is nothing in this resolution that says we support any of those specific bills.
So there's two parts of this resolution. One is a letter and a resolution, as far as I can tell, that I was reading. So we've got, under the attachments and description, we have a letter to legislators re charter school reform, and we're asked to sign that, and I presume send it to legislators. And I'm saying I would vote no on that because of what I just said. Regarding Charter School Reform Act, which is the letter you're describing.
The resolution?
Yeah. That's close enough to the line for me personally, where I think it is contrary to the work that the task force is doing.
Okay.
So I'm somebody who is always in favor of meaningful language to people, not language that is so vague and general that what are they supposed to do with it?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to vote no on this.
Okay.
Would you feel comfortable, Trustee Wheeler, if in the letter we took out the second to last paragraph where there is a reference to ABs 1505, 1506, and 1507?
You talking about the second one?
I'm talking about the letter.
The actual letter to the legislature.
Okay, so I am looking at the resolution right now. That
Mhm.
is not, that they're not in there.
It's
Yeah.
the next item. on
Yeah,
the
so
agenda.
that's what I'm saying. So there's,
So within the world of the letter, the second to last paragraph, if we took that language out in that paragraph in general, would you feel
Do you want to use my phone?
different?
Let's see. That's the resolution. Oops. Oh, I'm done. And then here's- and I can make it bigger. Okay.
That way, at least the letter then conforms to the spirit of the resolution, which is the general act as a whole and the legislative efforts to reform the California Charter Schools Act in general.
so like I said, I think this dances around the bills. And even if you took the bills out, the intent of the letter is the same. So again, I'm saying, I think it's more respectful to the process of the task force to let them do their work and then possibly come forward with something that is more specifically on point to their recommendations.
So you're drawing a direct distinction between legislative efforts and then the task force. And
Right.
So you don't consider the task force as part of the legislative effort. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I agree with Trustee, Madam President Wilson, that I like the spirit of the letter. I would suggest, though, that if we pass this, I would like to see the second to last paragraph in the letter be removed, since those bills have already been, for the most part, decided upon. I don't know what you all think about that. Other than that, that's my suggestion.
Just to clarify, the anticipated outcome of the task force is expected in June or?
I would need to check my dates. It's after June 15th. So
Oh,
it is after the approval of the May revise. So it's something like the end of June, so that the anticipation is that the task force recommendations would be taken up in that August, September timeframe.
And then that's when the legislative efforts would kick underway
Right.
for whatever recommendations they have
Yeah.
moving
Right.
forward.
For the
to-
Senate.
Personally, I feel like I've been waiting long enough. It's been, well over a decade, 2 decades. And I want to build on the momentum to encourage the legislature to do something. And this is generic enough for me that I feel comfortable sending this letter. I don't want them to take their eye off the ball, as so often happens in Sacramento and Washington. Things get killed in committee, whatever. I want them to know that I'm paying attention, that our school board is paying attention, and to move forward. So I will be voting yes.
As will I.
Is this something that we can, when the task force recommendations come out and further legislation is taken up in August and September, that we can also revisit and more specifically support?
Or we can follow up on
Definitely.
it.
Yeah.
But we can, if we pass this, like I think we will, because I think there's 3 of us that will vote yes for it. We can follow up with a more concrete letter with specific references to whatever the recommendations are that come out from the committee work.
And we have done that before,
Right,
like with,
right.
with sanctuary
Mhm.
proposals and things. And I'd be very supportive of making a more specific resolution in favor of, depending on what the proposals are that come out of the task force, doing that again in the fall.
Agreed. Okay, so do
Any
any
members of,
questions or members of the public wish to speak on this item? Okay. Additional comments?
I agree with trustee Gutierrez about removing the section referencing specific bills. And I would like to revisit this when the task force recommendations come out and be more specific in our support then. Is it possible to include something referencing the task force in this? The future work of the task force? We hope the future work of this task force reflects the concerns of our district or something like that?
Well, the task force is a gubernatorial
It's-
task
it's
force, if I
separate,
understand.
yeah.
So it's not,
This is
so
with
we're
the
sending this,
legislature.
Yeah.
this to the legislators,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Right.
The Senate and Assembly
Yes.
EdCom. So I think
Yeah.
it's the wrong audience, I think.
Okay, it's hard to encourage the legislature to respect the outcomes of the task force when we don't know what the outcomes of the task force will be yet. So I completely understand your hesitance on this, Trustee Wheeler. I am comfortable with the generality of this if we remove the second to the last paragraph in the letter to the legislature.
I'm comfortable with that.
I am as well. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the resolution and the letter with the exclusion of the second to last paragraph within the letter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
No.
Okay, on a motion made by trustee Gutierrez and seconded by trustee Blakely, the motion passes 4-1 with trustee Wheeler in the nay. We'll move on to item F, resolution number 02053019, National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
So, and this is the same point I made before, that I think this is too important of an issue to just put on consent, that we should be public with our support of this.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But I was going to make a motion, but I think we need to see if anybody had comments.
Are there
No?
members of the public who'd like to speak on this item tonight?
Wearing orange.
Thank you. Could you state your name when you come to the microphone, please?
So I'm Lisa Henry. I'm a parent at Bub. I'm also the state membership chair for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. So I really just wanted to say thank you for putting this on the agenda tonight. Wear Orange and National Gun Violence Awareness Day were inspired by Project Orange Tree, which was an awareness campaign to commemorate the life of Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence. Orange is the color that Hadia Pendleton, her friends wore in her honor after she was shot and killed at age 15 in Chicago, just 1 week after performing at President Obama's inauguration in Washington, D.C. And in June 2015, on what would have been her 18th birthday, Broad-Based Coalition launched the first National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Participants were asked to stand up, speak out, and wear orange in honor of Hadia's life and the lives of all victims and survivors of gun violence. So in June, there'll be hundreds of events the first full weekend of June, from community beautification projects to youth basketball tournaments. There'll be a film screening in Los Altos. And so citizens, mayors, local governments, school boards will all stand together on June 7th for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. So I just wanted to say thank you and urge you to vote yes. And so thank you very much.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Henry.
I wore orange to Graham's graduation last year, and I will be wearing orange again to both Crittenden and Graham's graduations on a week from tomorrow. And thank you for your support.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'd also like to thank Ms. Henry for her work on behalf of reforming gun legislation in our state. I believe strongly in this resolution.
So may I make a motion that we approve the resolution?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on a motion moved by trustee Blakely and seconded by trustee Conley, the motion passes unanimously. We'll move on now to communications by employee organizations. Is there anyone from an employee organization that wishes to address the board? Okay, seeing as there are none, district committees. We have lots of kids having fun outside, going by on their big wheels, but no district committees. Superintendent. So now is the time for community comments. This is the time reserved for community members to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board and administration welcome this opportunity to listen. However, in compliance with the Brown Act, the board is not permitted to take action on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the community who'd like to address the board at this time on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing as there are none. Oh, that's right. Thank you. I do have one card. Is it Maribel Barajas?
Yep.
Hello. Good evening. I'm coming here because I would like to talk about grant for next year. I know we're going to have 6 months administration and staff, and Miss Chelsea is not there anymore. She's the support for the kids. And I would like to consider for the next year to have one woman. We not prefer no one, but please thinking on the growth. Why? Because for culture, a lot of Latino parents teaching her growth not rushing to start with the men. I don't know if it's good or bad. Maybe for some it's not good, maybe for some it's bad. But thinking on our growth. I'm not in school, my daughter's in school, another girls are in school, and I talk to a lot of parents, and they don't feel comfortable to talk. But please consider it. I sent to Heidi a couple emails about how it can be different if you send one woman besides 6 men. I know they're doing great job, but it's good have a woman to the girls feel comfortable, talk about her body, or another things happen. It's not because I wanted a girl there, but we had 900 students. I don't know how many girls, but in some point it's not fair. Creighton is going to have growth, the principal and more growth over there, and we don't have no one. Thank you, and I appreciate you thinking on that position. I hope you listen the Latino parents because in my personal opinion, sometimes I heard other people not Latino talking and do something like that, and all you listen. And sometimes we feel so frustrated. We come in, we talk, we send emails, and they say, wait. Last year, I've been here a couple times asking, and they just, they say they're going to do change, it's take a time, but the time is passed so quickly, and please consider that position. Maybe you have already who's going over there, but they can switch. I think you have the power to make that decision. You more than the principal, I think, because we send email to them, we talked with the other ones. Yesterday, I didn't be here for the meeting. I know some parents have meeting, and they talk about the same. So now I decide to come in here to talk because I think it's very important. I know Sarah and Maria, they're doing wonderful job, secretaries, but that's not her job. They are busy. And I see when girls go to the office, sometimes I see the other day, one girl, it was something happened, and Manny say, come, let's go talk. And the girl say, no, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to Daniela. Thank you.
Thank you, Maribel. Thank you for bringing your concerns to the board.
So just as a point of clarification for you all, yesterday at the DLAC meeting, Ms. Heidi Smith had the honor and privilege to be able to meet with, I want to say over 20 Latino parents, mostly women. So there was a healthy discussion there, an exchange of perspectives of what was brought up to us now in terms of the Latino community, a part of it at least, feeling that there should be a female representative as part of the administrative team there to help listen to and advise any issues that relate to, in this case, girls, teenage girls, because they feel that in essence, they don't feel that much comfort discussing those personal issues with a male member of the team.
Any other comments from trustees?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We will move on now. I have to, at 7:18, I'll close the regular meeting of the Mountain View Wisdom School District, and I will open the public hearing on the revocation of Bullis Mountain View. Dr. Rudolph?
On May 16, 2019, the board approved the issuance of notice of intent to revoke and notice of facts in support of revocation to Bullis Mountain View. Tonight, the board will hold a public hearing pursuant to Education Code Section 47607E. This public hearing will offer the board an opportunity to hear the issue of whether evidence exists to revoke the Bullis Mountain View Charter. The public hearing will proceed as follows. First, staff will be given 15 minutes to present to the board. Then a representative of Bullis Mountain View will be given 15 minutes to present to the board. District staff will then be given an additional 5 minutes to respond. Following the presentations, public comment will be heard for a period of 20 minutes pursuant to Board Bylaw 9323 from individuals who wish to comment. Each individual who wishes to be heard will be given 3 minutes to speak. The board will not take action on whether to revoke the charter tonight. The board is scheduled to make its final decision to revoke or decline to revoke the Bullis Mountain View Charter within 30 days after this public hearing. And we actually have ours set for our next board meeting, which is June 13th, if the board, would the board make a decision? All right.
All right.
Are you got time? I got my own time. I'm gonna add an extra minute just in case. All right. So I'm sorry, the glare is still coming in here, but we're going to talk about the approval. So first, the board approved at the December 20th, 2018 meeting, which was a special meeting that the board called, approved the petition for Bullis Mountain View for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2019 through the term of June 30th, 2022. There were several requirements that the board issued. The first one was governance, which is to address the potential conflicts of interest, governance concerns, and ensure local participation in the governance. The charter requires that at least a majority of BMV's board members reside within the boundaries of Mountain View or within the Mountain View Westman School District. Assessments to address the lack of defined measures to enable the district to compare performance with the charter school. The charter requires BMV to utilize the same benchmark and reading assessments used by district each school year, conduct such assessments on a trimester basis, and meet assessment reporting deadlines as designated by the district. The charter is also required to exceed district-wide assessment results for all pupil subgroups by not less than 5%. Budget estimates to address the potential fiscal impacts of the inaccurate estimates. The charter must revise its budget assumptions by utilizing the revised assumptions reflecting a free and reduced price lunch rate of 42%, ELL rate of 24%, and socioeconomically disadvantaged or SED rate of 35%. Furthermore, the charter must indicate that BMV's enrollment rates of free and reduced price lunch, ELL, SED students should be at least equal to those of the district. Title I estimates must be revised, and the charter school must submit a revised budget containing the correct assumptions to the district no later than July 1st. Admissions preference to effectuate BMV's enrollment goals and purpose of serving the families residing within the attendance boundaries of Castro, Therakoff, and Montaloma. The first priority was given to students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, who reside within the attendance boundaries of Castro, Therakoff, and Montaloma. Second one is students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch price meals, reside within Mountain View. And then finally, the last one is a requirement of an MOU, which is to outline the specific obligations, operational responsibilities, legal relationships they had to enter into one. So there is oversight that is granted to the authorizer. Under Ed Code 47607, the charter may be revoked under the following conditions: commit a material violation of the conditions, standards, and procedures set forth in the charter, fail to meet or pursue any public outcomes identified within the charter, fail to meet the general accepted accounting principles or engage in fiscal mismanagement, and violate any provisions of the law. There are 5 questions that you use to determine whether or not there's a violation. Does the issue that you're investigating hinder, disrupt, or infringe the student's ability to access his or her education? Does the issue impact the ability of the charter school to fulfill its obligation to various stakeholders? Does the issue represent a pattern of noncompliance or indicate larger systemic issues within the school? Did the school fail to remedy to identify issues of noncompliance from a previous corrective action notice? And does the issue jeopardize student or staff safety or represent a serious threat to the school community? So our analysis concludes that on March 21st, 2019, BMV notified the public that it did not intend to open in the 2019-20 school year. This reversal was contrary to its previous actions. A letter thanking the MVWS staff, the application for a CDS code, the planned acceptance of Prop 39, the application into the Eldorado SELPA for the 2019-20 school year, which was approved, started negotiating the MOU language in January, student registration events, advertisement for positions in January and February, specifically the community engagement associate as well as teachers that was put in edge on. There are also some other staff concerns. There's obfuscation of the enrollment priorities and the failure to comply with information requests and the clandestine approach to circumvent the approved charter. Staff findings. So again, we go back to the 5 questions, and in the event that we find that any of these are yes, we report for corrective action. We actually did. We found that there were several issues that we wanted to, and so we asked for Bullis Mountain View to provide a cure or a remedy. So on April 1st, staff provided representatives from BMV with an advance notice of the intent to revoke the charter if the following cures or remedies were not made. On April 4th, 3 days later, BMV representatives sent a 1-page response to MVSD stating, and I quote, "We have no intention of engaging in your ill-conceived revocation exercise." And on May 5th, which was a deadline to provide a cure or remedy, no further response, remedy, or cure has been presented to MVWSD from BMV. Justification, staff believes that Bullis's actions have been an attempt to disavow oversight. And in addition to that, we believe that they are in violation of appropriate governance requirements. Also within our justification for revocation, we feel that their failure to open is a violation of the actual charter. And additionally, their failure to provide an actual remedy to the concerns that have been raised. After that, staff then on April 4th, staff determined that representatives of BMV are in violation of Ed Code 47607C and asked them to comply with all requests around enrollment and opening procedures, work in good faith to finalize the MOU with the authorizer, and adhere to Ed Code 47607C, demonstrate progress towards all requirements outlined in the approval, provide all requested information to the board members and meeting dates. And so we sought to actually submit a notice of intent to revoke. And so here we are with the public hearing, which is the next step for this. And if after this public hearing on June 13th, the board will either approve the intent to revoke or to deny it. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Rudolph. Is there anyone else from staff that would like to address the board on this item? It looks like now is the time for any representatives from Bullis Mountain View to address the board.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Jordan Huang. I'm a resident of Mountain View and a parent of 2 children who will soon be entering the Mountain View Wisman School District. I'm also a board member for Bullis Mountain View. I'm speaking to you tonight as an individual. To be clear, and as you know from our letters, Bullis Mountain View does not agree that there is a charter here to revoke. Instead, we believe that this is a self-serving show put on at,
Are you a Bullis Mountain View representative?
yes,
You can't speak on behalf of yourself as an individual.
okay, understood. My
You're
apologies.
speaking on behalf of the organization at this point.
Okay, sure. So speaking on, oops, sorry. Speaking on behalf of the organization, we don't agree that there is a charter here to revoke. We believe that this is a self-serving show put on at the taxpayer's expense because we don't believe that there's a charter. You denied the school that we petitioned for and wanted to build to serve this community. The state has not and will not assign a charter number or issue a charter district school code because there is no charter, period. The California Department of Education also knows that there is no charter. So we believe that we need to stop insulting the more than 200 families who wanted this school in our community and end this phony revocation process. On December 20th, 2018, the Mountain View Wesleyan School District attempted to illegally approve our charter petition. While the law strictly requires a yes or no vote, either approving or denying the charter petition at hand, the board instead unilaterally inserted and then attempted to approve their own material changes to the petition, including aspects that had never been discussed nor agreed to by BMV. So in effect, this rejected and denied our original petition, the school that we and many families had wanted, in favor of a district-imposed version that was both problematic and unlawful. The superintendent told us that there was room for us to discuss terms of the MOU so that we might, in good faith, harmonize the district's desires with our petition itself as it was presented. We believe strongly in everything that was written in the petition, and based on the strength of the families who signed our petition, intended to help serve their interests. However, it became clear after several weeks that the district had no interest in good faith discussion. Ultimately, BMV had no choice but to accept the conclusion that the district had denied our charter and had no intention of working with us. If your desire was to obstruct the existence of a charter school in Mountain View, then that desire has been met. You do not have a charter school in Mountain View, and in the end, the children lost. In a school district with one of the largest achievement gaps in the country, an opportunity was available to try an idea with a proven track record of success. And to the detriment of the children for whom it could benefit, it has been denied by those charged with protecting their futures. Ultimately, you denied the choice to those kids who would have benefited the most from them. As Bullis Mountain View has stated before, this revocation exercise that you started is a waste of both time and tax dollars that could be better used to closing that achievement gap. So, in summary, there's nothing to revoke here. Despite our best efforts to work with you in good faith to serve children, you denied the charter back in December of 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Are there other members or representatives of Bullis Mountain View that would like to speak, or would you like to address the?
No response.
And we're entitled to what, a 5-minute response or? Okay.
The purpose of the hearing today is to respond to evidence presented in support of notice of intent to revoke. To this date, representatives from Bullis Mountain View have not responded or refuted the evidence that has been provided in our petition.
Are there other representatives from Bullis Mountain View who would like to speak today? We'll open it up to public comment. There are no members of the public who would like to speak on this item? And at this point, do we just
Close.
Okay, so it's 7:32. I'll close the public hearing on revocation of Bullis Mountain View. And we will, this is tricky. I'm going to open back up the regular meeting of the Mountain View Westman School District at 7:32, and also the public hearing on the local control accountability plan. Ms. Bauer?
Thank you. So tonight I'm here to ask you to present the LCAP and the budget summary for parents for public hearing. There were minor changes since my presentation of the content of the LCAP on May 16th. The changes were really reflected in certificated salary calculation changes based on the May revise and the buy down of the STRS contribution. We have posted signs for the public hearing in the schools. We have had the LCAP and budget summary available in the district office. We posted it on the website. We've presented to DAC and DLAC and we are ready for public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer. Are there members of the public who would like to address the board on this item?
We have to have a public hearing.
Oh, I thought I already opened that up.
Did you open it already?
I did at the beginning.
Oh,
before we-
okay, did you?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
yeah,
apologize.
maybe I did it in the incorrect order. My apologies.
No, that's okay.
Any members of the public wish to speak on the LCAP? Okay, at 7:34, I'll close the public hearing on the LCAP. Thank you, Ms. Bauer.
Thank you.
And I have another public hearing to open here on the education protection account. At 7:34, we will open up the public hearing on resolution number 01061319.
Good evening. This resolution is 01061319 regarding the Education Protection Account, EPA. And these are funds that were generated by Proposition 30 back in 2012. And these were increases $200 per student, and the funds raised were through sales tax and taxing higher income taxpayers. So we must hold an open hearing for the public to comment on the EPA funds. We've included a report on how those funds were used, and staff recommends that you go ahead and carry the resolution forward.
Thank you, Mr. Wheelahan. Are there members of the public who would like to address this item? Okay, seeing as there are none, I will close this public hearing of the resolution number 01061319, Education Protection Account requirements. And I will open up at 7:35 the 2019-2020 budget adoption public hearing. Mr.
Hello?
Wheelahan?
Yes, I'm back. So it looks like we probably will have difficulty viewing the slideshow, but
Yeah,
I'll do the
this is
best I can.
challenging.
And you guys, okay, and you have it here as well. Thank you. So where we're at the process as tonight is the hearing to hear from the public regarding the budget that has been available on the website as well as in the district office. As you know, the process is moving through from the hearing tonight to the adoption in 2 weeks. It's part of our strategic plan to maintain a balanced general fund, as well as provide competitive compensation packages. Also, a board goal is to keep our reserve from 17 to 20%. So I'll speak to that. It is in the slideshow. First, about where we're at today. Our estimated actuals, and we're looking at ending the year with a deficit of 4.1. Now, we probably will not spend out in all of our programs, and we'll report to you in September 5th with our unaudited actuals. And likely this number will be less, and we'll report there. But this is where we stand right now at 4.1 deficit for current year. And that leaves us at 26.2% reserve. Get back to that in September. So usually with the board, with the budget, there is the SACS report. So I'm just going to go over what's in your items and for the public to comment on. So there's the standardized accounting code structure. It's the SACS forms. So this is the actual document that all 1,000 districts in the state must provide. To make that easier, we provided a budget book, formerly known as the user-friendly. So this year we've kind of made it a little more friendly, put some graphs and charts, as well as the expenditures for each program, so that you don't have to cull through the whole SACS form. New to this year, as Kathy had mentioned, is also the user-friendly budget thing. This is a new item from the state of California. We thought we would double cover also in the LCAP as well as part of our budget presentation. So this is for parents to go ahead and look at where the LCAP dollars are spent and how we use those funds to increase or improve services for high-need students. In the presentation, we've got our basic on our general fund revenues. This is to give a board of an idea of the revenues that come in. 81% is from local property tax. We get a small amount from other local revenue such as shoreline and MVF. We also get some state revenue and a small amount of federal revenue. Our money goes out. On the next slide, the majority, again, this is 81% is for employee costs. Small amount is used for other services, and the pie graph gives you an idea of where those funds go. Next, we'll move on to our multi-year, what we're anticipating for current year. Current year, our budget year, next year's $2.9 million deficit is what we're looking at. The second year, 2.2, and the third year, $1.7 million deficit. This is foregoing any raises. This just takes into assumption of our AV going up at 3.5% the next 2 out years, as well as the COLA that's predicted. That will leave us in the third year with 19% reserve. Moving on to other funds, the preschool fund is actually, will have a small amount. We contribute to that, about 200,000. Food service has a small ending balance, which is their stores and leftover products that they have at year end. You also have a post-employment benefit fund at 5.2 million. Those dollars stay in there and they generate interest, and they help us pay for our employee retiree benefits. Capital projects are winding down. We anticipate $5.8 million left in the bond program, and those funds will be expended through next year. We'll have a fund balance this year in developer fees of $380,000 and a special reserve for capital projects, which is our Fund 40, which will finish up the district office and Vargas School. Considerations for the future, moving the budget. This is a snapshot in time. So as changing needs for our students and family. Also, we'll keep an eye on the assessed value. We should get the first is Saturday. So on Monday, we'll get the latest assessed value numbers from the county assessor. We have no negotiations planned in October, November. And we just need to keep an eye on continued growth with North Bayshore and being prepared for those students that come into the district. And last but not least, be prepared for an economic downturn. We're on a 12-year run, and there's indicators that things are going to slow down. Next step is budget adoption on June 13th, and tonight we'll hear from the public and the board any desire to change or make modifications to the current budget. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Wheelahan. Are there members of the public who'd like to address the board on this item? Okay, any additional feedback on the budget from the board members?
I have a question. Help me out here for the capital projects for the funds, Fund Title 21 and Fund Title 40. Which of these is tied into Measure G?
Fund 21.
Fund 21. Okay.
Is Measure G, and then Fund 40 is the certificates of participation for Vargas in the district office.
Thank you.
Trustee Blakely?
So I know I've made this comment on multiple occasions. I appreciate the work that the staff did in coordinating with CHAC to see what the expense would be to restore the village program at Castro. And it sounds like it's not possible to do a modified version of it. So to continue it for the coming year would be approximately $50,000, just under that. And I know the budget is tight. I know we've made cuts, but I continue to feel like this is an equity issue. We love all our children, but they need different things. And I think the Castro community is just going through so much trauma with the ICE raids, and socioeconomically, it has a population that is just more traumatized. And if there's any way possible to restore that program at Castro, I would like to see that restored in our budget. I also was at an economic summit at San Jose State this morning, and the economist who was from UC Riverside, I don't remember his name, but he was saying a lot of people are predicting slowdowns, but he's not seeing anything for at least the next couple of years. So, we'll see. He said the Wall Street Journal is always saying there's going to be a recession within the next 2 years. But if you look back for like 10 years, they've been saying that it's going to be in the next 2 years. So I know we've got 19% in 3 years with this, but that doesn't include salaries. If there's any way to do it, I would like to do it.
I also want to echo Trustee Blakely. There are, I believe, registered currently 33 McKinney-Vento students at Castro Elementary School, students who are housing unstable. And it is commonly assumed that that is going to be an underreported quantity of the students that are housing unstable because people aren't always comfortable or feel secure registering for McKinney-Vento. So that I very strongly agree that this is something that we need to maintain for this student population.
Other trustees wish to comment?
Well, no, I agree with both of you. I'm just trying to figure out that if we were to do something like this, where would it come out from? What suggestions do you have, Ron?
Hoping those property tax values go up.
That would be one, because you're proposing an ongoing, ongoing program at Castro, 50,000. That's what you're suggesting.
I would like to see that, but at least for next year, I would like to see it.
I guess investigating grants would be an option, or cutting one of the other programs, an equal share. But a particular program, I don't have one in mind. I don't know if staff does.
So if I could speak to that, we are still waiting to see if we will receive the El Camino grant. And in that grant, we asked for an additional $50,000 for community outreach. So that might be a possibility, but we will not know that until maybe mid-July. And my concern with the CHAC program, the village program, is that we're incurring a 3% operating cost increase every year. So it may be 50,000, 49,000 this year. It may increase next year. So that's something that we have to consider. I've been trying to work with CHAC to see if we could find out the cost of a modified program at Mauna Loma, but I've not received any information at this time. So yes. So the rates do increase every year for us from CHAC, which is a problem.
For the record, Superintendent Rudolph said that they doubled their price to us 2 years ago.
When Marcia came on board, one of the things she had to do was, it used to cost, I think, 180,000, I believe, and then the price shot up. So ultimately, it's the board's decision. If three of you are saying that you want to, then we'll have to find the money somewhere. So you just need to vote.
Would it be possible to have,
Well, not here, but you would need to provide direction that that's what you want to do.
yeah,
and then we have
to
find-
provide direction to see if we can find a source of funds for it?
If finding a source of fund is different than making it happen. So if the direction is for us to make it happen, then we need to know that's what you want, and then we'll find a way to make it happen.
Before we go down that road, I have a comment just to make. Are there any alternatives? I hear that we want to do this for a single year. Is there any other options that you or your staff have thought about that could be possibly a multi-year, more sustainable approach where we would know what the actual expenditures would be and they might be fixed in the long term, which would provide the same amount of support services to support these kids?
I think there's a possibility of consolidating a couple of our programs and staff, and hiring marriage licensed therapists and placing each one at a school that would come in. And that plus, if you take the money of combining several programs plus the amount that we spend on CHAC and create these positions similar to what the high school district did, you actually would save money in the long run.
And the high school district just did this. I thought I had recently seen it in the paper.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So-
there's some concern about the effectiveness of it at the high school district. And apparently the new superintendent has some other ideas, is what I have been told.
I like the idea of more of a permanent person, and I've heard that the people who work in this existing program are interns. They cycle out
Correct, every year.
annually often. So
Ev-
there's not this
correct.
relationship building component that often helps when you're dealing with social emotional wellness in children.
Correct. This is, so CHAC is an internship program. So we are paying CHAC for their interns who are
Mhm.
doing the hours to meet their certification requirements.
Okay, so I'm not opposed to what's being presented tonight. I just would like to see, after we potentially provide guidance for this single year, for us to consider more longer term options that could provide stable multi-year funding where it's not in question in terms of the cost and value. I'd hope we could explore that as well.
Well, I think it makes sense to explore all options, but for this year, I would really like to see this. Also, the Village program has full-time permanent staff overseeing, supervising the interns on site. So that's a more unique program that this year was offered at Mauna Loma and Castro only.
I just meant the full-time contact continuity year to year with the kids, but yeah, that makes sense too.
No, I think you all are right. So this approach allows us to be able to re-examine what it is that we have now and what it is that we could have later on. One being dependent upon interns to help us out with the advising and hearing of our students for their mental health well-being, but another program that would replace it, which would be more concrete, where we wouldn't have to rely necessarily on a track program, but perhaps something else. So that approach and exploring all options is what I would also include or understand by what you said with that. So I think that opens the door for us to just re-examine it at a higher level and find out what we can do.
And I have a question that the committee or task force that, was it the mental health task force? I can't remember. There was a
Wellness.
task force.
Wellness. Health and
Wellness.
wellness.
Would this be something that would be appropriate for the wellness task force to evaluate various options for next year? Or is that outside of
I think,
the
and
framework?
President Wilson and I have talked about this. I think the most appropriate approach is for the board to set direction in terms of what you're really trying to accomplish around health and wellness, and then for staff to come back and to say, this is how we believe that we can accomplish the direction that you've set forth. I think right now we're piecemealing things apart. And so, you know, while the Health and Wellness Committee has been working on suicide prevention, you know, that may, I'm not trying to argue that that's not important, but how that fits into an overall health and wellness approach is a larger question.
Could we do a health and wellness study session at some point and really kind of dive into this and discuss it as a board in order to set direction?
Could. It depends on, I mean, we would need to know what exactly what you're looking for in terms of the presentation. So a little specificity in terms of, are you looking to general causes? Are you looking towards homelessness? Are you looking, right? So I think that's
Right.
just part of the conversation, suicide.
Possibly looking at what we're already doing and then referencing things like the LCAP survey results, what the needs of the community are that the committee is already aware of. And
We can do the SEL. Just a presentation. So to take all the data we have from the SEL, we can do that.
And to do a study
We do that
session.
and do a study session. We'd have to.
Maybe in the fall.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been kind of tossing an idea around with Dr. Rudolph is to see if we as a board would like to try to develop a policy, because that's really what our directives are, a health and wellness policy. We could get input from task forces, from presentations that could be provided, which would give us this foundation and framework from which we could work to implement these types of programs. And we're always going to be guided by the principles that we outline in that. So that's something that it was an idea that he and I have talked about. I've never done one of these from scratch. We're going to look into what we have and examples.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's to update it to reflect the direction of the board.
Yeah.
or
I
what-
was going
what
to say the
priorities you have.
strategic plan is due for an update soon, so it may
Next-
fall under that
next-
as well.
We have
Yeah.
one year left before it's time to revise it.
it could fall under either. I don't think since I've been on the board that we've had a
Policy.
development from scratch.
That sounds like a good idea to me. I do, you know, if we were to do a study session, I hear what you're saying about stability with marriage and family therapists, but one therapist can only see so many people. And so in without probably anecdotally, but it seems to me that if there were a program that did employ lower paid interns, that you could actually see more, that, you know, under some supervision, you could actually see a lot more kids. So I don't know. That would be something I would like to get more information about
Well,
later.
And those interns, to my understanding, are mostly doctoral candidates. So they're already people who have been in the profession and in the field for a while. So it's not like a college intern.
Do they
They're
have contact hours though, or is that their experience in the actual non-theoretical contact?
I'm not sure.
That's why this would be good for a subject for a study session,
Yeah.
because we
Well,
don't know.
I think there's two different things, right? The evaluation of the CHAC program is where you all are headed versus setting direction for what you're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
And so whether or not the CHAC program meets our particular needs and the contact hours is a completely different evaluation and versus what is it we're specifically trying to accomplish based off of board direction, and then staff coming back and saying, based off of what you've given us, we believe that the best options are X, Y, and Z. And so I think that's more in line of what you're trying to do. I don't want to really get into the evaluation of whether or not a doctoral student meets the needs, but I think as a part of just an overview of all the needs that we have, I think that evaluation would come from staff and to say, you know what, based off of the direction that you've given, we recognize that the following needs need to be addressed. And this is the way that we believe that is best fit. And now just to give you a good example is the same way when we looked at the board set a goal for us to make sure that 80% of our EL students are going to be proficient within 6 years. Staff then came back and said, in order to accomplish that, here is the metric that we plan on using, and this is the process by which we have. And that's a sort of an appropriate back and forth and get clarification. Does that meet what the board is actually looking for? And then there was a robust discussion about what level we should set it at and why this level was picked. And then we go from there, and then it becomes into the measurement. So how do we report that out? So I just think I think that's more in line of what you're trying to get to. I just caution us to evaluate, you know, if I was in CHAC's shoes, I would probably pull out all my data guns and say, yes, you know, our contact hours meet your particular needs.
I like data.
Yes, you do. But I just think I think the best approach, we did do a social emotional survey that was presented to the Health and Wellness Committee, and we can start with there to look at what our particular needs are, as well as what the county needs are looking at, and include some other things. And then that will sort of give us a better direction about what you're trying to accomplish. Because I think there's a myriad of things that are possibly on your minds around health and wellness, not just about the mental health, but also about physical health, social, all those types of things.
I think what I'm hearing is that we want to at least continue a program at Castro in the way and manner in which Trustee Blakely described, but also come up with a longer term vision. And all of this again is around this budget conversation. So how we can kind of predict costs moving forward.
So all
that
we're
what I'm
looking for
hearing?
is essentially, we don't know what the cost is going to be unless she included that.
What did she say?
50,000.
If you could speak into the microphone, please, that would help.
Basically, I'm sorry, she said that there was no way to provide a cost for the modified program because it's by an intern. And what we're paying for at Castro would be the cost of their employee, which is a certified psychologist who runs the program. So the complexity of the program at Castro, she says it's bigger, more students, requires their employee, whereas Mauna Loma does not. So she didn't give me a cost for the modified program. I'm still trying to get an answer.
Does
But
that
I
mean
think
it's
they-
more than 50 in all
Could be.
likelihood?
It may be,
So your direction would have to be that you want the village program to be included as part of the budget, and then we would have to find we'll have to find the resources to pay for it.
My understanding, though, was with the presentation that was included in the board package from our prior meeting 2 weeks ago, was that they were including the Mauna Loma program in that amount that we
in the-
approved
in the
last
311.
last
But
time.
it does not include the
It does not include
It does
the,
not.
pro-
Castro.
the village program at Castro.
Right.
So if you want the village program at Castro, 3 of you just need to say that is what you want, and you have to recognize that you may or may not be aware of what the cost is.
Well,
And
the information that you supplied in response to the board questions that Jack had supplied was it's approximately $50,000. It was just under $50,000 for Castro only for the village program for next year, if we were to continue it.
We're likely
Right. So,
Yeah.
so my proposal would be that we include it in the budget for the 1920 school year, but do what everybody's saying, like, let's maybe have a study session and work on developing a policy and then ask staff to evaluate programming and make recommendations in the fall for going forward for subsequent years. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what
That's
you?
what I'm hearing. I don't hear it. I don't see anybody
So we want this program to continue on next year
for 1 year.
for 1 year, and we're asking the superintendent and our team to be able to help us figure out how to pay for that with an approximate budget of around 50 to, let's say, 70,000,
They said
depending on
50.
cost.
They said 50.
I would just recommend that if you want the village program, just say you want the village program, and
You'll pay for it.
we'll just figure out what the cost is.
Then we want the village program
For 1 year.
for 1 year only, next year. Is there consensus on that?
I'm seeing enough head
Yes.
nods. Yes,
So-
that's
I'm
direct.
I'm not sure if everybody concurs. I concur.
So two things will happen. We'll have to bring an amended contract back for CHAC. And the second thing is that we'll have to readjust the budget for it to go. In the event that CHAC does not provide us with the information, I would suggest that you adopt the budget as presented next week. And then, at the start of the school year, we would just include it in the first interim and capture it then. But we would bring back the addendum at the first board meeting, and then it would be captured in the budget during first interim.
Can I ask a question also? I'm looking back, Mr. Wheelahan, your slide on the 2019-20 budget hearing multi-year projection, year 3, you've got the reserve at 19%. That's correct. So that makes me a little more comfortable with doing this additional ask.
This is without teacher raises and any other raises,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. Thank you. I think you have direction, and we
I
will
do.
revisit the health and wellness, either policy or update to the strategic plan.
Right,
or-
so what we'll do is
don't-
we'll schedule, we can look at the agenda and we can see if we can fit it in, or we'll try to schedule an actual study session sometime in the fall
That's what I
on
would
health
prefer.
and wellness. So we'll look at, I mean, we'll figure that one out. And then the second one is that we will begin working on bringing back the village program. And so if we don't have the actual cost, we'll still work on getting it up and running. And if we don't have the cost, it'll be included in first interim. We'll bring back an amended contract. If we can get an amended contract, we'll bring that back on the 13th and readjust the budget to reflect that.
And I would like to see the health and wellness presentation in the fall. I think
Yes,
there's
that's what's-
enough to not
Not
in
now.
2 weeks.
No.
No.
You have enough to
Well-
focus on. We've just added more, and it gives the summer a more
Yep.
thoughtful,
Yep.
amount of time, I think.
Yep.
to get
And
good
it'll give us a chance to
information
ask you what topics you're kind of interested in, so we sort of can navigate our way through it so that everybody feels like whatever their concerns are for health and wellness are being addressed, as opposed to, just essentially taking a shotgun and hoping that the splatter effect works.
I think that's why I lean towards a study session. I know it's more time for staff and more time for board members, but an early Saturday morning to sit around and openly discuss this topic and really learn about it and make some good policy decisions, I think would be time well spent.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So I believe we will close this hearing at 8:03 on the budget adoption. And we'll move on to item D, the Social Studies Advisory Committee update. Ms. Victor?
I can
Oh, yeah, I
almost
can
see
see
it.
now.
There it was.
Yay, at least in
All
that
right,
one
good
thing.
evening.
It's coming into view.
We're getting there. So I just want to start the presentation tonight about the Middle School Social Studies Advisory Committee by saying that you have an updated presentation on your table, and there are copies in the back of the room as well, due to the meeting that we had last night. So I wanted to make sure we had up-to-date information to share this evening. All right.
Will
So-
this also be updated on the website?
Thank you. All right, so tonight's presentation is in alignment with our LCAP, specifically Goal 1, to provide standards-aligned instructional materials for students. So current state of our middle school social studies curriculum, we have 2 programs at our middle schools right now. Currently, TCI, History Alive, and Holt, materials that were adopted back in 2006. There's been a lot of history that's happened since then, and so it's time to look a little bit more closely at some new materials. So I want to talk a little bit about our process along the way. I'm not going to spend much time on this slide because I'm going to dig in to each bullet of this in the upcoming slides. I do want to say, though, as we look at this timeline, I'm not going to bore you with each date in detail, but I do want to say our committee got together beginning in December of 2018, and we've been working continuously since up to last night. So I will share our progress along the way. On our committee, we did have 4 teachers, 3 from Graham, 1 from Crittenden, and our instructional coach that supports social studies and literacy at both sites, and a parent, as well as Ms. Bauer and myself. So we had a nice committee to work together. In the summer, we did provide training to the whole middle school social studies department on the updates of the history social science framework. And these really focused the training on the instructional shifts in the framework. Specifically, I want to take your attention to the focus on inquiry and literacy within the social studies curriculum. Well, I'm really glad I have the computer in front of me. So after the social studies teachers were trained, then we had our task force come together and we met together to really look at the rubric and really decide on how we were going to evaluate material. So we did use the rubric from CSESA, very well aligned, and we went through that together and we really highlighted what are the most critical components for our students in our district that we want to look at when we're reviewing the physical curriculum. And we did go through the process. We spent 2 days at the county office, 2 full days, really going through detail by detail, all 5 different material publisher adoptions to really look at those criteria in the rubric. And as we went through each one, we stopped and had conversations about the pros and cons. You know, all of them had to go through the California adoption, so they obviously met the standards to some degree. But really looking at those standards specifically for our children was an important part of our process. As we did that, we talked about a lot of the different pros and cons, and we were able to eliminate 2 programs without bringing them forward for piloting because they just didn't quite meet our needs in the area of rigor and alignment to the framework and standards in our eyes. And so that left us with 3 programs to pilot, and we spent the same amount of time on each pilot. We wanted to be really consistent. We had publishers come out and train teachers at the beginning of the pilot time. They had online and physical materials available for the pilots. And we really created a pretty rigorous evaluation tool to use that each teacher would fill out during their pilot process. And so they evaluated each one during their teaching time on the 8 components you see here. What we learned after each one of the pilots was they all have strengths and areas of growth. Obviously, there is no perfect curriculum, nor will there ever be. But some of the things that were noticed was that the Pearson curriculum that they piloted first was pretty easily accessible to students, but it had a lower level of rigor than we're comfortable with. We know rigor is really important for our students. And so that was something that was immediately noticed. The McGraw-Hill program offered some more challenging text, offered a little bit more rigor, which was very hopeful for us. And then we did our third pilot with TCI. And the teachers really felt that the focus on the framework and the inquiry was really powerful in that program. So then last night we came together, and I want to walk through last night's meeting and recommendations from the task force with you. This is the new piece that was added to have printed for you. So last night we reviewed all 8 components of that evaluation tool to make sure that before we made any recommendations, everyone was truly on the same page and that every aspect of that evaluation tool was focused on the best needs of students, because that is absolutely our priority. And so you can see the way they have been aligned by priority with content and standard alignment, taking the top spot, followed immediately by rigor. And then you can see as we go down the list, the priorities are still important, but a little bit less powerful than the ones at the top. And then we ranked each program. The evaluation tool had a ranking rubric of 1 to 4. And we find sometimes that, they all come out as a 3, and they don't, right? They aren't all the same. And so we took a process of ranking each program then as a rank of 1, 2, or 3. And you can see on all 8 of those components how the rankings came out. And it will not surprise you to see that there will be a definite recommendation that comes out of this. But really the idea of standards, alignment, and rigor took precedence. And then there were other pieces like assessment and online tools that people felt like, they're great to have, but they're things that we can supplement and really do within our own department. So the recommendation, very obviously by that chart, is to use TCI as our adopted curriculum next year. TCI is the History Alive. It is the curriculum, one of the curriculums that we have currently, but it has been upgraded. And so the team really felt that some of these upgrades that were really, really important were the focus on the synthesis and analysis skills for students, really reaching that higher level of rigor. Each unit and lesson opens with a question from the framework. And so it's really that inquiry-based approach that we want to see for children. They're really bringing experiences and perspective to students. Instead of just teaching a list of dates and details, we're helping kids get a little bit more immersed into history and making connections. The online access they had was new. They have not had that in the past, and they were really thrilled with the ability for students to access every component of the program online in either English or Spanish. And so they felt like that was going to be a really great benefit for a lot of students who could use that reading in their home language. And so this brings us to some of our next steps. The probably most important next step that's not listed on this slide is that we will have materials available at the district office for parents in the community to come and review and see. It's an important piece of our process. And then we'll be coming back to you for approval on June 13th. Once we have your approval, we'll look at purchasing materials, including the online access for all teachers and students, giving them that power to have all materials in both languages. We will order class sets of textbooks and additional textbooks so that children have a choice. They can download the material on their Chromebook and take that home in a very light format, or they can choose to have the physical textbook if need be. And so teachers felt like that was important for children to have some choice in the format that works best for them. I've given you an approximate cost. I will have a much more detailed quote as we come closer to an approval or an adoption. And then the other piece of this that is so important is the training. And so the task force was really great about talking about the training that becomes so important when we adopt a curriculum. It's easy to say, yeah, this is the same we've always used and leave it at that, but that's not what we want. We really, really want to see how these materials align to the framework and how we utilize those materials to really support the true spirit of the standards in the framework and really work masterfully on engaging kids in inquiry and having them experience social studies in a very new way. Again, making connections of all the history and how it relates to the real world today instead of just memorizing the timeline that we used to do when I was in school. We also want to work on creating a year at a glance pacing guide. Not that every teacher has to be on the same portion of a lesson at every moment of the day, but it's really important that we have consistency between our two middle schools and that children are experiencing similar content within their experience here in our district. But within that pacing guide comes the focus of priority content standards as well as priority literacy standards so that we really embrace the new framework and all of the components of it. Right, that was the fastest presentation, but do you have any questions on our social studies committee?
I have two questions. One is with the online materials, do you know whether it has an audio piece for our dyslexic learners or our what do you call them, auditory learners?
Right, it does have an online piece that has the audio in both English and Spanish.
Oh, that's
So it has
wonderful.
read aloud in both languages.
Okay. The other question that I had was in the earlier piece, I think with the process and progress slide for pros and cons for the TCI series, the con was it was not really updated except in 7th grade. And did you find as you got into it more that there were subtle updates or how? I'm hoping that the reason that it was selected was not just familiarity. And it
Right.
sounds like with your broad committee, it probably wasn't, but if you
Right.
could speak a little more
And
about
thank
that.
you for bringing that up. So the first round, when we were just looking at material, we did not have access to everything. And so TCI was one of the programs at the county that had limited material available. And so it didn't look all that much different. But then when we reached out to the publisher and said, would you bring us the materials and give us the online access to everything that's new? Because we need to really evaluate every piece of the program. That's when we learned about how much had changed and how many new pieces had been added to really bring out a more rigorous literacy-based inquiry program.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. I remember this issue coming up. That's why I was looking at my phone. And back in 2017, we had a group of concerned parents about the portrayals of Hindus.
Right.
And there was a concern about that was brought to our attention because they didn't want to see that same systematic approach be implemented within the upcoming versions of the textbooks that we would possibly be adopting.
Mhm.
In what we have here as options, have we looked at that? Where are we with that?
I looked very specifically, the team did, and I did as well, at the 7th grade unit in particular. And the pictures are not at all what what was of concern. The pictures in the unit really focus on the beautiful landscape and beautiful buildings and really displays some nice images of all different aspects of the culture in the community, including children at school and palaces. So it's really a very different depiction than what we have seen in the past.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I had a question about, do you feel like the TCI, the focus on synthesis and analysis bridges those skills or helps prepare our students for high school as well and shifting into that format?
That is definitely the intent, is to really help children to think more deeply, really engage in the higher levels of thinking, and really bridge that piece of understanding and analysis. Like I said, rather than just the memorization of facts and dates and details that doesn't help them when they get to high school and have to do so much analysis. The work that they have been doing with all of that training right now, I think will go really to the next level with the new material and the new training.
Thank you.
Other questions from the trustees? And are there members of the public who wish to address the board on this item? Well, I would just like to thank Ms. Fickyard for all your efforts on this. It's a lot of piloting and reviewing and meetings and coordination has gone into this. So we really appreciate your efforts and your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to item E, update on enrollment. Ms. Geisels.
Good evening, trustees. It's my pleasure to give you a brief snapshot on where we are regarding our student enrollment today during the month of May. So as you know, to give you some context, our 3-year process to change boundaries and have students attend their neighborhood schools has finally come into fruition. And we, through the Enrollment Parties Task Force, through stakeholder input, and following the board's goal to create neighborhood schools at 450, we are opening Jose Antonio Vargas Elementary for the fall of 2019 and help reduce the overcrowding at Huff, Bub, and Landals. So we do have a shift in enrollment. So regarding the boundaries, 540 students moved due to the boundaries changes, and 95 fifth graders chose to stay at their neighborhood school for their final elementary year. And out of those fifth graders, 43 of those siblings will stay for 1 year. And then they will again move to their neighborhood school in 2021.
Does that 540 include the 95 and 43 or is separate from?
No, that's including.
Okay.
So our changes to our enrollment process, based on the recommendations from our Enrollment Parties Task Force and our board directive, we created a student placement exemption process. And we came up with exemptions where we would have 3 criteria. And the criteria was Title IX, if a student had been a victim of bullying or any kind of discrimination. Special education was one. If the services at the child's neighborhood school could not be provided, then we would move them to another school. And the third one was military. So students who were families, military families, would be able to transition to Mauna Loma. And of course, fifth grade students and their siblings could stay for one final year at their previous school. And then any school that is under enrolled would be the second process, which I'll speak about more in depth in a little bit later in the presentation. And then this year, parents, when they chose during enrollment, they were only allowed to choose 1 choice school. Typically, it's always been 2, but we asked them to choose 1, to focus on 1. So I know it's hard to see, and I apologize, but this is our flow, how we worked out the process. The forms were available at the school site in the district office. We explained what the forms stated, and we listed the criteria. And then our final process to this occurred last week when the Student Placement Exemptions Committee met. We had a sitting board member, a trustee, and 2 committee members from the community at large participated, and I facilitated. So it was the 3 committee members that made the final decisions. We redacted the information, the personal information of the student, and we just provided them with the request. So we read through each one and we discussed, and decisions were made that night. It took about almost 3 hours to go through. So there have been many events to welcome transitioning of the students. We understand that sometimes for some families, a change is a loss, but our principals have gone above and beyond in ensuring that this is a happy event. This is a great time to celebrate our new placement. So we address the concerns raised by our parents and by our EPTF. Some of the events, the examples are pancake breakfast, ice cream socials, play dates, potlucks. In fact, they're still going on and they'll continue throughout the summer and into the fall. So the list was very long and it was too much to put on here, but please understand and please know that our principals are really working hard to make sure that this is a happy process. So the impact of our enrollment and exemptions on schools. So as you can see, the reasons why we made exemptions, these are the three. We had 81 exemptions that the committee reviewed, and 9 qualified, and 5 were pending information that the committee requested. And out of those 5, we approved 3, pending on the information that we talked about. Some of the requests that we were asking for, one in particular was one parent was going to move to Therkoff from Landals, didn't want to do the bike situation. However, many parents who requested that were also requesting Stevenson. So it wasn't really about the distance. It was just about the perceptions of the school quality. And those were hard conversations and crucial conversations that the committee had. So that's just one example of the many that we had as far as requests. We had on the form that the placement committee, the student placement committee's decision was final. And we made sure of that. So our letters are going out and we'll be informing parents starting tomorrow of the results of the committee, or the decisions rather. As you can see, you know,
Carmen, I am so sorry, with all due respect. The presentation that I have online is very different from what you have
Really?
presenting. So what you,
Starting with the slide.
right,
Are
so,
kind of in different
so,
order.
so in this case, the enrollment exemptions that I see that you spoke about, that points to page 9, is actually found in my presentation on page 15.
Okay, all right. What I'll do is make sure that you get the right presentation. This was a version, and I think what you have is probably the final version. So I apologize for that. Enrollment's a moving target. It spikes September and April, October and April. Those are the big days. Our official enrollment count is in October. I will be back to give you a count for the 1920 school year after we complete CalPADS, and I can give you more specific. But we have enrollment counts weekly. And again, the enrollment today will be very different than it would be June 1st. So it is a moving target. So this is an example. For example, in October of 18 is the blue. And then that very same year in April, in the same school year, you see how it fluctuates just a little. So again, just to prove the point that enrollment's very hard to pinpoint. It's not consistent. One item that we wanted to talk about is the portables at the school sites. There is this is the last year of the bond program. So the portables that we have at 3 schools are going to be removed in 2021. So it is really key and crucial that we do this transition of enrollment because those portables are moving. And by next year, when I come back to you, when all of those 5th graders that have been allowed to stay move, we'll have very different numbers at each of the school sites. So that's one point I'd like to make. It's just the transition year for this year coming 1920. Also, we will look and see how the communities need to function without those portables because the leases are up. So next year will be kind of a shifting year. And by 2021, when 5th graders move out to 6th grade, when their siblings go to their neighborhood schools, we should have a more leveling off of the enrollment. So you should see smaller numbers at each of the school sites, most especially at Huff and at Bub, where they're still somewhat large. As you know, staff enrollment drives our staffing, and these are maximum class sizes. And just to give you an idea of where we are looking right now specifically at a staffing ratio for middle school. As we focus on the elementaries, our next step is to look at the middle schools for the coming year to see how we staff those adequately. We will have some combination classes at some of our schools. It's just a given. As Dr. Rudolph has said many times, students don't come in little packages of 24 or 30. So it also helps us reduce operating costs. We did hold meetings at every single site. This has been a year-long process. We talked about the movement, we talked about enrollment, and we have worked with staff, and we're happy to say that we're fully staffed and ready to go at Vargas for grades K through 4 for the 1920 school year. This is a picture of how the staffing aligns with enrollment. Where Bub was 2017-18 till it is now for 19-20. You can take a look at all the schools and see how the boundaries have shifted that enrollment. So our next steps. So we are sending out the notices by June 1st. Our hope is to do it by tomorrow. We are looking at the parameters for under-enrolled schools, and I have to tell you right now, as of today, the only grade level and school that is under-enrolled that we can readily take students is third grade at Therakoff. If we were to add students to what people perceive as Model and Castro's under-enrolled, we would have to add staff. That's how tightly we are staffed and enrolled at this time. So we have seats available at third grade at Therakoff at this time. We're also going to look at how this impacts our transportation department. We would love to be able to evolve that department. Maybe we can recoup some of the transportation costs we have for special education. We're waiting to see how that works out this year. It's kind of a work in progress, a transition year. We may have a reduction in force, but our first hope is to be able to use them to bring back some of those contracts we have for special education transportation. We're also going to start, per the Enrollment Priorities Task Force recommendation, an address verification process for over-enrolled schools, starting with Huff and Bub. And we are developing that process. When we have it solidified, we'll come and present it to you for your review. And then the one question we do have for next step is, per the Enrollment Priorities Task Force, the task force asked, does the board have any interest in diversifying choice schools? That was a concern that was brought by EPTF last year. So that's something I present to you to ponder and think about. So that's all I have. If any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Geisels.
When do you anticipate bringing that question up for substantive board discussion?
I've been told right now.
Are there questions on that? It sounds like that last bullet point that we need some clarification on, or would we like to? move
So I
straight
have a comment
to
about
public
it, but I
comment?
don't have a question.
Okay.
I have unrelated questions. Should I ask those before or after?
Oh, I think we'll go through all the questions now and then public comment, then we'll go open it for discussion.
I was just wondering, were there options that you wanted comments on? Like the structure of how one might diversify.
So I think our question would be that, how one might diversify, and how do you envision that for both of the choice programs? How do you envision that? Oh. Well, that's a good question. If there's no interest, there's no point in us pursuing it, but that was a question that the Enrollment Priorities Task Force had about the choice programs and whether you're interested in diversifying more. I think it came up more with Stevenson's program, I believe, Dr. Rudo. So that is just a question if you want us to pursue that or not.
And it sounds like if we are interested in that, we would just provide direction on that. And then you as staff could come back with options A, B, and C perhaps,
Yes.
and how to accomplish that. We don't need to be directing those conversations. Okay.
Well, we're still asking
Are there
questions,
other
right?
questions? Because we have
Devin
community
has some.
comments.
Yeah.
I do have some questions.
Okay.
The class ratio at 30 students for fourth and fifth grade.
Mhm.
My understanding was in the past, the ratio was 28, and then above 28, there's a bonus paid to the teacher.
So for combination classes at fourth and fifth grade, the cap is 28. And if you go over that, then you're entitled to an overpayment, an overload payment.
But not for like a straight.
Straight
fourth or
grades are
straight
30,
fifth.
and actually the cap is 32.
Okay. And then my other question was, previously, when the enrollment priorities were approved, I had thought that the under-enrolled schools, the way the policy was written, was that if the overall school was 20% under-enrolled or 25% under-enrolled, that there was an actual figure tied to that. And I don't know if that changed later on or how that's working.
So under that rule at this time, none of the schools meet that requirement.
None of them meet the 20 or 25% under enrolled. Okay. Okay, thank you.
If there are no other trustee comments, anyone from the public wish to address the board on this item? Okay, we'll go back to discussion.
So in an ideal world, and we don't always have an ideal world, but in an ideal world, to support equity in our district, I would hope that our choice programs could be economically representative of our district. And there might be other metrics that we'd want to consider, other methods for whether it's regions within the city or, I do have an interest in seeing that our choice programs are equally accessible to all of our subgroups in our district. We might not be able to meet like an ideal average that matches the district, but I have heard from Stevenson families that that's something they are interested in as well. And so I would like to express my support for looking at ways we can help diversify the student population.
I'm interested in that too, but think
Okay.
it would be helpful to see a little more data in order to evaluate that. But I'm definitely interested in that.
I am as well. I think we've tried to impose similar things on other bodies that have come into our district. I think we should be looking at how we can best represent our student bodies at the choice programs because they are boundaryless. I think it would be really wise to look at exploring those options as well.
I think that makes sense because I know in terms of having access, they all have access, but in
Right.
terms of the actual end results, it's a whole different story, right? Based on the applicants, who
Right.
applies, the family structure, socioeconomic goes into that. But if you could come up with some sort of ideas as to how we can look at that and
Okay.
re-examine that, that'd be great.
And I make 5.
Thank you. So we can work on that as next steps.
All right, if there's no further comment. Thank you, Ms. Geisel.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll move.
I just want to thank all the staff for the last 2 years of, I mean, it ain't over yet, but the whole boundary change and enrollment, it seems like we're reaching, implementation, but I know it's been a lot of work and I wanted to thank you.
A lot of community members and task force hours as well too. So thank
Indeed.
you for everyone involved. It's been a long haul, but we're almost there. All right, I think we can move on now to board updates. Anyone have board updates?
So I sent mine in, but I'll highlight 2 things. One of the things we used to talk about a long time ago was spotlighting 2 things that we did over the last couple of weeks. One is I referenced that I went to the Capital Advisors Group May Revised Budget Workshop, and I highly recommend that workshop for anybody who has time during the day. They do a workshop for the January budget. They do one for the May revise. They'll do one at the end of June for when the budget is finally finished up. And then I think they also do one in August when everything is all the way done. So I try to send information out about that so that people can sign up. It's a free workshop. It's at they hold them at county offices all over the state, but the one that I try to go to is at the Santa Clara County Office of Education. They're normally in the daytime, absolutely 100% worth it. And, as you all saw, I went and I got extra copies of the paper handout today of the slides. But even they said, when they first created the slides, they are now out of date because, the legislature is just moving so quickly. But they will be sending out a PowerPoint, I think beginning tomorrow. So, and I'm going to be out of town, but when I get it, I will send it to everybody. It's worth seeing. Another thing I want to highlight, and it was interesting that Ms. Wallace was here earlier. So Terry Wallace and I and about 18 other people from Santa Clara County went to Sacramento a couple weeks ago to advocate for high quality early learning and, K-12. So we got to speak to our local legislators, some aides. It's a highly worthwhile endeavor. And the legislators that we speak to say it's meaningful to them to see us come up and to see people that they know. So I was very glad to be able to do that. And I was glad that our preschool director, Terry Wallace, was able to take time out of her extremely busy schedule to come up and provide testimony also because, people in the field, I think, have the most credibility.
Thank you, Trustee Wheeler.
I'd like to make just one comment. At the city council meeting last week, Dr. Rudolph presented and the city council approved moving forward with the Fort Bay project that will give us 124 units of affordable housing for teachers and staff in our district that qualify. And so I'm really thrilled about that. And yeah, want to thank the city and Dr. Rudolph for his leadership here and everybody else who's participated. I think Trustee Wheeler was at that hearing as well. But
As were you.
I was there.
And I'll mention various trustees on our boards have gone to these city council meetings for the last many years. So it took a village.
They also, the city set in their priorities moving forward for the next 2 years, evaluating and coming up with a strategy around after-school programming, particularly for low-income students. So I think that is good news, and I'm looking forward to our district partnering with them around that. They already support us with some of the funding towards Beyond the Bell, but that program is not available at all of our school sites anymore. And I also wanted to thank Miss Liu at Castro Elementary School. She's a kindergarten teacher there, and she has allowed me to be a Project Cornerstone reader in her classroom this year. And my partner, Maricela, who was the Spanish-speaking half of our duo, and it was a wonderful experience, and it was great to be in the school and see wonderful things happening in that classroom.
I'd just like to contribute with also recognizing the city council on their agenda. I think they also included a possible partnership with our district to explore the purchase of the Shenandoah property, which is federally owned, which I think is a good sign that this joint venture program that we're both on is a new way of governance where there's not just one ruling body making all the decisions, but it's a collaborative effort to do what's best in the interest of the city as a whole, which also includes our children. I think that's very important. But I'd also like to share 2 events that I attended at Graham Middle School where I was part of the staff versus students soccer match and the staff versus students basketball game. And both of them were like intense because I've coached before, right? In soccer and basketball. But man, these kids are huge, right? They're tall. So I stopped 4 shots on goal, which was great. But I was just impressed with the school spirit, everyone being supportive of one another from the student perspective, and how much fun, and you can tell positive relationships are really established between the teachers and the students. You can tell with the banter, you can tell with the way people were sharing their experiences with one another. And that was awesome to see because I don't think we see enough of that since we're over here on the board. It's a different level perspective, but once you go back into the field and you see what's going on in the schools, that's my favorite part. So I want to thank Hermosillo for that invitation, and I won't say who won. But.
Thank you, Trustee Gutierrez.
Watch out. I was on that staff Stevenson soccer team, and we never lost when I was there.
Sorry. I'm not competitive at all. I think a challenge has been laid out before us.
She's not competitive, no.
Well, I'm going to actually provide an update on behalf of my son, who attended an event, I believe, organized by Principal Chang and staff for the Vargas Lunch, which was one of these transitioned events that was mentioned earlier in the board meeting. He went to a specific classroom within a certain grade level at his school site where all those kids will be transitioning to the new school, and he really enjoyed it. I just wanted to provide a real world working example of how the principals and staff are really working hard to make this transition as easy as possible. So I just wanted to thank you again and put out that as a personal example. So I think on that note, with other updates we can send to Ms. Lilga. And do we have items for future agendas anybody would like to add? Seeing as I hear crickets, I believe we've got our future board meeting dates listed
Yeah,
here,
so
and there was a
I-
change to the August.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
I
correct?
also, I sent a message to Ms. Lilga, the June meeting is not listed on this agenda.
Oh, yes, okay, so June 13th is our next board meeting. And then the rest are listed there. Is the 20th meeting correct, or 22nd? Okay, we'll make the needed adjustments in the next version.
Wait, so we have 2 meetings in June?
No, we have a June 13th meeting. That will be the last board meeting for this school year.
Mhm.
And then the next meeting, I believe, it sounds like it's on August 22nd.
And can you tell us when's the all hands meeting?
Probably the Friday before, right?
16th. All right, Friday, August 16th, sounds like the all hands meeting. Do we know what time roughly?
Will there be
Morning?
like a calendar invite sent to trustees?
Okay.
And can you also, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think with that, at 8:45, we will adjourn this meeting of the Mountain View Wisconsin School District.
Early for
How is this?